What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, shout out to the brother Eric with another donation to the channel via the Cash App, and he had a question. And his question was, why did The Last Dance documentary, which aired back, I think it was in May of 2020, why did that documentary significantly outdo the 2020 NBA Finals in the ratings? For those of you who just need a refresher, and I don't think most of you do, the Last Dance documentary, which largely, but not totally, focused on the 1998 NBA season, the last season for the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan together. Matter of fact, back then it was called by Phil Jackson that season, The Last Dance together. Although it focused also on Jordan's collegiate career, growing up a little bit, his early years in the league, etc. That documentary did significant numbers. I don't know if it's still true today, but I think it is. I know at the time it was the most watched documentary in ESPN history. Now, keep in mind, ESPN's been around since 1979. Whereas the 2020 NBA Finals, which featured the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat, I think the Lakers beat the Heat in 6, even though I remember the prognosticators were predicting that the Lakers would win in a 4-0 sweep of biblical proportions. But I'm just going to throw this in there. LeBron James cost the Lakers a victory in that game. Excuse me, in that series. Stat padding, I distinctly remember that. But anyway, it's the lowest rated finals of all time. The bubble finals. Now, why? Why are these things facts? Why did it happen? Well, with Michael Jordan, I mean, his popularity endures in a way that I don't think any athlete has. No athlete. He didn't have a media machine. Well, he did, but not to the extent that LeBron has. He didn't have, this constant media machine pumping misinformation and disinformation and crapping on other legends just to prop him up. That's what I'm trying to say. He didn't have this negative super machine behind him. It was his game pretty much doing it. Now, of course, he did benefit from the modern media aesthetics that helped push him a little bit further as far as being globally known, that would not have been available to him, say, if he had played in the 60s and 70s. But he still earned every bit of that. And that mystique has not gone away. I mean, you got kids who are the children of the kids growing up buying his shoes. You know what I'm saying? The kids of the kids. Even, matter of fact, you have the kids of the kids of the kids who are buying his shoes in the 80s. Buying his shoes. Nobody wants to buy LeBron's. Nobody cares about his shoe. Secondly, nostalgia. A lot of people who were watching the documentary were reminiscing about their childhood and what some people might see as the great days of their lives. Not necessarily that, they don't appreciate their lives at that moment, but you got to remember, we were going through a global pandemic at that time. And people needed a distraction, and thinking about better times and thinking about, times when people didn't have some of the burdens of growing older, financial issues, health issues, whatever the case may be. That played a factor. I mean, how can you not think about, if you're a child of the 90s, How could you not think about Michael Jordan and not smile? Unless you're a Piston fan. But anyway, or a Knicks fan. I also think that what helped the Last Dance documentary was the circumstances. When it debuted, I believe it was in May of 2020, most major sports, I think virtually all major sports organizations had shut down. So it didn't really have much competition. And what I do recall at that time is that sports fans were just, you know, slobbering or foaming at the mouth maybe for any type of sports content. And The Last Dance, even though it was in the past, it did give you some new nuggets. It gave you some new golden nuggets of information that we previously didn't know about. Okay. And it gave us more, it gave us unique perspectives from Michael Jordan that we hadn't heard from before. So with that audience at home, I don't want to say with nothing to do, but bored with no sports, that was anticipated. It was anticipated, and ESPN did a great job of advertising it. And, you know, at the end of the day, it paid off. I want to say each episode averaged about 6 million viewers, which for ESPN that's seismic. Seismic. Remember, Stephen A. Smith brags about getting 600,000 views an episode. He brags about that on ESPN First Take. Michael was getting 6 million views an episode on ESPN. And on the flip side, the 2020 NBA Finals. Well, first of all, it was the bubble. And as we all know, most people don't really respect the bubble because it just wasn't a good brand of basketball. There was no travel. There was very little mystique about the whole thing. Not every player participated in the bubble. There was no crowd in the bubble. You could hear distinctly tennis shoes squeaking on the parquet floor. It looked like scrimmages. They had the fake fans in the background. It just was garbage. As a matter of fact, LeBron James initially was against restarting the season and playing in the bubble until one of his sycophants got in his ear and said, look, this would be an easy way for the Lakers to get a cheap ring. Everybody's not really focused right now. We can laser in, focus. We got a really good team. The competition ain't going to be what it would have been had the season progressed naturally. You're refreshed. You got a 4-month break. AD, who was, if you recall, was kind of starting to break down a little bit again, had 4 months of rest. It's going to be an easy ring. So that part is part of the reason why the ratings were down. And I would also say, you got to remember, the finals aired outside of its normal span. You know, if you recall, the finals, I think, aired from late September into October. And that's in the heart of the NFL season. So it's competing with the NFL. It's competing with, I think, the NHL playoffs at that time. I think it's competing with, Major League Baseball postseason. And I think out of all the sports, the only one that did well, if I remember correctly, was the NFL. All the other sports were down, but the NBA was way, 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 way down. So I think that was part of it. Absolutely. And last but not least, I got to bring this up. I think the fact that the league was becoming more political, if you remember at that time, there was a lot of turmoil going on in 2020. A lot of things going on in this country. and the NBA was becoming more socially conscious. Remember the messages on the parquet floor and the perception that the league was quote unquote woke or liberal or whatever the fuck. Um, which I mean, look, you could argue that, but to be honest with you, I'm just going to add this in there. This is my opinion, okay? I think that the reason why a lot of white people complain about predominantly black sports being political is because they know oftentimes, well, at least 60% of white folks, that they're going to totally disagree with your politics. And they don't want to hear that. They want to hear something they agree with. So, and the reason why I get a little irritated at that, and yeah, I'm bringing up race again, because that's just what I do. The reason why I get irritated with that sometimes is because I've seen people say this shit, right? Take politics out of sports, but then I'll see a Kurt Schilling go on Fox News and go on a complete rant about the left, right? And I hear nothing but bravo, a breath of fresh air, and blah, blah, all this other bullshit. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. So it's not really about politics. It's you don't want to hear something that you just don't want to see something you disagree with. So you want to just live in a conservative, you just want to live in a conservative bubble or a Republican conservative echo chamber where everybody disagrees with you. That's not how it works. But at the same time, it hurt. It hurt the NBA. So those are my main reasons why I think Last Dance absolutely destroyed the 2020 NBA Finals in the ratings and LeBron James. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.